All right, guys, so let's start with Redux. So what this does, it will give us the ability to make our React application communicate with our API. So eventually we're going to be putting both the website and the backend projects into the project folders here on the left. For right now, we're just working within the React source tree. So I've gone ahead and opened up Terminal by clicking here on New Terminal, and this has opened the project in Terminal. Basically, this is the Ubuntu shell that I configured with Visual Studio. If you haven't done that and you are using the Ubuntu shell, just continue doing things how you have before. This just makes it easier so it can be zoomed in a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. So to get started with Redux, we need to install a package. So we're going to say npm install, and that has made it so we can't see that. Oh, there it is. And I can't type in it. Okay, there we go. npm install -- save react redux. This is going to take a few minutes to install, and what it will do is give us the ability to wrap our components just like we did with the with router. We wrapped our right here. This is actually with Formic, so we're going to have to wrap the with Formic with basically Redux. So once this installs, I'll be able to show you guys a little bit more about what I'm talking about. There's two main things that we are able to do with Redux while wrapping our components. One of them is mapping the state to props and mapping dispatch to props. So to break those down a little bit, the mapping state to props, basically Redux gives us the ability to have a app-wide state instead of component states. So if we look up here, actually not in this component, but where we've defined a state before, I can't remember which component that was in, but I did talk about the state, I know that. Maybe that was with our calculator application. In any event, let's go ahead and run npm start. And this will launch our application. Now, off the bat, nothing has changed. So inside of this login component, and I'm going to close all other shells, or all other tabs, rather, we can, so beneath the components declaration itself, so here we have class login extends component. Below that, we can define a constant called map state to props. And this will basically decide which, let me open that up here, which app-wide state properties this will get. Sounds a little bit confusing. Let's just jump right into it. So beneath the component itself and above the export default statement, we're going to create a new constant called map state to props, and we're going to put an equal sign, and we're going to get the state. So the app-wide state is going to be passed into this as a function. And here we just return what state, what app-wide state we're going to get. So in this case, it's going to be auth. So auth is going to be equal to state dot auth, and that's all we need to do there. And then we're going to also have map dispatch to props, and this is going to basically, we're going to have actions defined a little bit later, which are going to be passed into this component as functions that we can call. So it's going to be passed in as a prop. So we want a function called this props login that we're going to pass the email address and the password to. So thinking about that a little bit, we're going to define a new const called map dispatch to props, and it's going to receive the dispatch. We're going to make that an arrow function here. And so here we need to return functions. So in the login component, we want this .props.login function. So we're going to define that here. So we're going to return, and this is going to be a JSON object, and we're just going to return a series of functions here. We can name them whatever we want in this case, but this is what it's going to be passed into the props as. So if I want a function called this .props.login, I'll say login like this, and now it's going to be a function, so we're going to open up parentheses, and here's where we're going to take the arguments, which is going to be email and pass. And then we're going to use an arrow function here. And so when I call this .props.login, this will get called. So for right now, I'm going to console log logging in user and then the email. And that's all we will do. Now, in order to wrap this component, we're going to need to import connect from React Redux. So under the with formic line, go ahead and type import connect from React Redux. And you do need the curly braces around it. And then down at the bottom of the file, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this with formic statement in connect. All right. So all we're going to do is type connect and then put a bracket there. And then a bracket here. And then save. And go back to our application. It says can't resolve Redux. So that is a problem. Let's go ahead and install Redux itself. Should have been a install -- save Redux. I thought it would get auto installed as a dependency of React Redux. Possibly that is not the case. I'm going to go ahead and run npm start. We're going to close this tab here. Don't need that anymore. and we get our application. So I guess you do have to manually install Redux separately. Now, if I go to login, I think was the route that we were working with. Maybe it wasn't. We're getting a blank screen though. Let me go back in our application, app.js. Okay, so it was just /admin. So now we're getting an error, and this error basically means that it could not find store to connect the login component. And this is basically, we are going to have to specify the store, and the store is going to be a collection of app-wide states and app-wide actions that we can specify basically. So we're going to get to that in the next video by connecting it from the top down, I guess. So we're going to be working in app.js or index actually. We're going to wrap well, we might do it in app.js, and we will wrap this within a store provider.